So, welcome to this conversation that you'll be having with me, Claire Linton. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined with Victoria Boylan. And she is an absolutely passionate parent advocate and someone who's transforming the way families navigate anxiety and challenging behaviours. Now, Victoria works in children's services with young people coming out of mental health hospitals and other areas as well. And her focus is really, really unique. We've been having these incredible conversations, and I couldn't wait to finally have this conversation with Victoria because we share a common theme. And that theme really is around helping supporting parents because one of the key things that we always talk about is yes, we do work with the children and the teens and all young adults themselves. Yes, they also do need our support. But one of the key things that we noticed is always missing is the support of the parents, whether they're coming with children coming back out of mental health care services and then they're going into these same environments and parents are left with nothing. How do I now support my child with what maybe they have been learning? And this, by the way, if this triggers you, it's okay. This is not to blame parents, and both Victoria and I completely understand this. This is not that we are to blame. However, we will feel some of those mirrors within us. We will feel triggered by thinking you're creating guilt in us because of some of the things that we may have done, but it may be because we didn't have the wisdom or the knowledge of how we can then, be that advocate in our young child's life. So it's really not to, I just want to make that really clear. We are not here to say we are blaming parents. What we are here to do is to really share some incredible techniques and tools. And for Victoria to really share her story, her inspiration of how she came into this work. And the most exciting thing is where she's going with helping supporting parents to help support their children. Because I know I read this wonderful book that was given to me by a head teacher actually that I worked with when I was doing rapid transformation therapy in a school. And she gave me this book that says, when the adults change, everything changes. And this book was particularly about a head teacher who was like teaching other teachers, and they were coming to the head teacher saying, "Oh, this classroom is like chaos. How do I deal with it?" And so they did some different kind of alternatives in working with the teachers, and it changed the environment in these London schools in the most wonderful way. And it can be the same with us. And I feel very passionately about that myself because I've experienced it as soon as myself decided to look inside of ourselves, as well as my husband, when we were facing challenging, our challenging teens or children, it was actually a lot to do with us and then how we could then find different tools that would help support us and not really to then obviously blame myself, I'm not good enough or whatever, but it was really just to support my own healing process too in the way that we can then help navigate our teens and young adults. So I'm not going to say much more about that. I know Victoria is completely on the same page. I'm sure she'll agree with me. But welcome, Victoria, and I'd love you to introduce yourself and really tell us about your journey and what inspired you to do the work that you're doing now.
Oh, hi. Thanks, Claire. That's a lovely introduction. Um, okay. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. He's deciding to move about a bit at the moment. Um, and it always does that whenever anything's filming. It loves it.
Yeah,
I think he needs to be seen and heard too.
absolutely. Animals do. They always show up when these experiences happen. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Basically, my background is I actually was lucky enough to live my own dream job, and I worked with horses and animals, um, and I ran an equestrian centre. And then from that, I started working with equine therapy with neurodivergent children and people and children and adults with mental health needs as well, and using the animals. Um, Unfortunately, COVID wasn't so good for us at that time, and then what followed after was closing of that. And from there, I went to work with residential home settings with children with mental health needs and traumatic experiences. That was a very big eye opener. And I was really intrigued in that because I wanted to know, from the working with the animals and the children, I had a lot of parents come to me and say how lovely this was, and they were on waiting lists for CAMS and desperately didn't know where to turn and what to do with what was happening with their children. Whether they were isolating or they had anger problems, or just not communicating with them anymore. And so my journey was really about finding out about that. And I've done that and found out so much more. I became trained in nonviolent resistance, which is a movement by Hemamar, which talks about resisting violent behaviour from our young people, from our children, either towards themselves or to others, and a way of how us as parents can really change how we respond and react. And that makes such a massive difference to how the children then respond and react. And so, really, I think it's a whole cueing system about looking at ourselves and actually taking. And when I say this, I hear so many parents say to me, how do you expect me to do any self care when my child is in crisis? Like, how do I stop and actually do something for myself when my child really needs me? And the way that I can explain that is, if you don't show them that you can love yourself and that you matter, how will they learn? Because everything children learn has been mirrored and copied by us from birth. That's how babies learn. And that's what we have to do. We have to be able to be an anchor within their crisis, to be the solid component that the child can rely on.
Yeah.
And I've gone through all the variant levels of training, and even more so fairly recently have done something called space training, which is supportive parenting
Yeah.
for anxious childhood emotions within children. And that talks about, obviously, is at the higher end of young children that are just, they've become recluse, or they've become so bound by anxiety that they can't function.
Yeah.
And they've developed OCDs. And so we talk to parents and help them navigate through that and help empower their children by the parent having belief that the children can actually do this and understanding anxiety, that they've come around. I've seen dramatic changes, and it's scientifically proven. So there is science knowledge behind it.
Yeah.
And there's been lots of trials and tests, and we're doing much more of that in the UK as well. But all of that said, I would like to go back to before the children have these outbursts and outbreaks, to be able to go back to parents and say, look, when you feel this is not right and you are starting to look for help, if we started these understandings of ourselves and how we're responding and react, we could prevent and avoid a lot of where young people go.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start this journey with your GP, then towards CAMS and all this, and it's a huge fight. It's not a simple journey.
Yeah.
And then and on top of having to deal with your child, then you've got to deal with all of these professionals that are telling you this is what you should be doing. And they often conflict with each other, to be fair. And the parent comes away feeling like they are the ones to blame.
Yes.
Because of the advice from NHS services, from social services and things like that, and doctors and psychiatrists. And once you go down the medication route as well, it just blurs the lines for the children.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much we can do before then
Yeah.
that would really empower parents to know they do have everything their child needs. they do know quite a lot of the answers, but we need professionals to help and guide, not take over.
Yeah,
You
this
know,
is so amazing. And I love what you're saying because it really is about the education, empowering parents in education, things that we really aren't taught as
yeah,
parents, right? And this is not to say that, we are rubbish and we're not just going into like, going into parenting with no tools at all, because we are learning from our own parents, right? But also it's remembering this is the importance of knowing ourselves. So there are lots of things, and you shared this brilliant. Really want you to share your story in a second. But the story, that comes up with me is I know my parents did the best with the tools that they had, and I'm so incredibly grateful for all the things that I learned from them. But there are some things that my parents, I remember them doing with me or with my brothers and sisters that didn't resonate with me. And then I tried to parent in that way, thinking that was the way I did it. But my values were different and it wasn't working. And at the time, back, 20 years ago when I had my first child, I felt terrible as a parent because it wasn't working. Why is this not working for me? But also, I'm grateful for the lesson there because it allowed me to grow. Because then I was curious. I'm a very curious person, so I like to look at things and think, why is that not working? I am literally like that 7-year-old child that's going, well, why is that? Why is this? So I always evoke my inner child, is what I'll say. And I became really curious about, well, why is that not working? And the one thing that I did that was really significant was I looked at myself. What was important to me? What was my values? And I was looking at other parents in the playground and then in how they were parenting. So I was observing a lot and thinking, oh, maybe I'll try that. Or maybe I'll try this. What feels, and this is where it comes to, what feels right for me? And I can tell you, Victoria, it was super uncomfortable for me going through that journey because what I realized was that I could feel the judgment of other parents. I could even feel the judgment of my own family, like, my other parents. And I'm not saying that they did it directly, but I could feel it indirectly. Well, why are you doing that? And I was like, well, actually, I'm the one that knows my child. So I am going to do it this way to see if it works or not. Because the other way is not working. I need to change something. And that was actually then knowing that I have a lot of trust and belief in myself. And it's taken a long time for me to get there, by the way. So I'm not saying it happens instantly overnight, but it does come back to ourselves, doesn't it? Really looking at ourselves, getting to know who we are, what are our values. We can appreciate the generational experiences from our parents, their parents, but it doesn't always work in the same setting. So I would really love it if you would share this beautiful story that you shared with your experience of when you shared about your 16-year-old daughter, because it is such a lovely way of introducing what happened to you and what inspired you on your journey too.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, the gravitational weight that we bear on our shoulders
Mm,
from, like you said, from the expectations of others. Um, and I don't know that they're always necessarily there, or whether that's again a case of us overthinking
yeah.
and using so much of our mind when naturally, as a mother, we're nurturing creatures.
Mm,
You know, we need to do a lot more from what's in our hearts and
yeah.
our souls as opposed to what's going on in our mind. Because I don't know about you, but my mind can be very critical. so, navigating that and learning how to train your brain and get it to focus and give
Yeah.
it what you want is a journey and another thing that I work with. But
Yeah.
my story talking about my journey with my own teenage daughter when at one time she was 16 and she'd gone out and hadn't replied or responded to any of my messages, and I didn't know where she was, and it was very unusual. And the instant feeling that I had of this panic and anger, I mean, I was angry. Why wouldn't she respond? Um, and the whole fear of it just flushes up over you. And I remember finding out you know, from someone else, oh, she's here, and going directly there, like
Mm.
straight on it, straight going to the place. And I message her and say, I'm outside, you know, you need to come out here before I come in and get you. It was quite late at night.
Yeah.
So, and as she came out, just whole body sensation, you know, it was really tight, really tense, and all my shoulders up and the hairs on the back of my neck, and my heart just pounding and racing with, you know, the expectation of what is going to happen, because I don't know. And
Mm.
as she came towards me, she obviously felt and noticed the same and met me right there, you know, met me with the same posture.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything was just like we were just opponents.
Mm.
And the words are irrelevant, you know, the words are irrelevant. The whole emotional trauma I was going through at that time, and obviously she was as well, because
Yeah.
neither of us knew what was going to happen. And I wanted her to come home, and I wanted her to be safe, and she wanted to stay and have friends and have a happy time, and
Have
couldn't
fun.
understand why I would be upset with
Yeah.
any of it. And literally out that second, I had this major flashback to when I was like 13, and I had a similar situation with my own mother. And, you know, exactly the same feeling, the whole tension in my body, the racing of my
Mm.
heart. And, you know, I guess I was looking up at my mum, maybe at the same eye level then. I'm not sure if I was taller or shorter, but it felt really confrontational. And the things that my mum was doing and the things that my mum was saying hurt a lot. And literally, she was just really, again, it's not so much the words that were spoken, but the whole feeling that came towards me was really a feeling I didn't want to repeat to my daughter. And I really wanted to just be able to stop that. So at that minute, I could stop and I could just take a breath. And although I couldn't quite get myself into this perfect situation of serene calm
Yeah.
instantly, I was able to just say to her, I'm just going to take your phone,
Yeah.
and then I'm going. And that was all I could muster, you
Yeah.
know. And I took the phone, and she went back to the party, and I went home. But if I hadn't have had that flashback and that knowledge of how I'd felt at the same time, and my mum had done the same thing to me, you know, I would have continued in the same vein. And what worked, or what my mum perceived worked with me, it didn't work.
Mm.
That feeling lasted, I can tell you, that feeling lasted weeks between me and my mother.
Yeah.
It was not a good combination. And it took a lot of repair work.
Mm.
So when I hear a lot of people saying, well, it was all right for me when I was younger, actually it wasn't
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
It just it it was kind of accepted that you could behave in that way because
Mm.
that's how it was done, but it didn't help anybody. It definitely didn't help my mum talk to
Yeah.
me in that way, and it definitely wouldn't have helped me talk to my daughter in that way.
Yeah.
So being able to just stop and break away was amazing, because it meant I could repair things the next day,
Yes.
you know, and it wasn't a case of weeks later. It was a case of, actually, you know, I didn't handle that right. So I
Yeah.
want to make that better. Because, as I say to everybody, if everything stopped in the world today and you had no job, no house, no money, what is the one thing that you're going to reach for? You know,
Mm.
what's the one thing? And it's always, always going to be your child.
Yeah.
You know, they are the most important thing.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, we need to have those breaks. We need to be able to stop ourselves
Yeah.
and just reflect.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? That me, or is that generational? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time the reaction will always be a generational response from what we learned as children, of
Mm.
how we were brought up. And again, like you said, the parents having the tools that they had and the knowledge and education they had at that time
Yeah.
wow, what a big difference we have now
Yeah,
with
amazing.
educational benefits. And it is literally that. You know, you
Yeah,
send your children to school to learn something.
yeah.
And so now, just because we're older, you know, we can learn what's available. And
Mm.
it doesn't have to be what someone else says, it has to be what fits you,
Yes. Yeah,
you
I
know.
totally agree. And you said that, could you read that lovely quote you had from
Or Gabba,
Gabor because that
yeah,
is another example of how you said about generational, but there's also societal one. And I know that you've been doing lots of research with Gabor Mate, but I thought that was so profound that I'd love people to hear, you know, your insight into that and what you take from that from the work that you do.
yeah. I mean, so with Gabor, I know he's been doing a lot of work as well with adult children and you know,
Yes.
restoring. And I've been watching some of that and
Yeah,
watching him and his son together.
profound.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
also gave me hope because, you know, they have arguments
Yes. Yeah.
in front of people and openly,
Yeah.
and they do a lot of work together in front of the screen, which makes me feel amazing because I think
It's
as
real.
women, I think we hold it differently. I think we hold
Mm.
too much shame
Yes.
and not wanting to show and display what is actually going on for us. So in his quote, he
Mm.
says, the reality of women in this particular culture is that society has made them the shock absorbers.
Mm.
So, you know, women are just naturally hold on to this guilt, this mum guilt, um, and they find it very difficult to relieve stress without feeling that they're a failure for not coping with everything.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is just trying to please everybody all the time.
Yeah.
But actually, what's important for us, when I speak for myself specifically, is what is important for me
Mm.
and my daughter,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and everyone else around you will fall into flow with you
Mm.
if you stay true to that,
Yeah.
or they will find their own path and people.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's also important to note that you can't please everyone, and neither should you.
Yeah. And it does bring me back from the when I introduced you, Victoria, because I said about really knowing ourselves as these human beings that we are, as these guardians of these beautiful souls that have invited into our lives. You know, they came through us to share the experience, and it's not always comfortable. It's not always easy at all. And it is up to us to be able to be that foundation, like you said, the anchor
Yeah.
to show them, because you know when they see it themselves. And when you said about the self-care, oh my goodness, how many times I used to remember, because I had children when I was very young, and my friends were all partying still, and I was doing everything, you know, jack of all trades, trying to fit everything in. And I remember one of them saying, who didn't have any children, who said, well, Claire, you just need to look after yourself. And I was like, what the? I didn't say it to her face, but I came home thinking, what the? Does she know? How did she expect me to do that? And then as a few years went back, I actually apologized to her and I said, look, I'm really grateful for that phrase that you told me about. And I decided to embody that. And now I realize the importance of it. And she probably didn't even know herself how important that was, because when she became a mother, I reminded her of her exact words. And again, it was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Practice what you preach, basically. And it really is true. And it can be very simple things, can't it? Like it doesn't have to be, you don't have to hire people to do it. And that's what later on we'll talk about, some of the most incredible tools that I know that you provide, but I've got a couple of things that I can share as well. So, I mean, you know, Gabor Mate's work, and you're right, he makes it real. We still, and you said earlier, communication.
Yeah.
Communication is key. No, these are two things that have come up through this conversation already so far, is communication, self-care, knowing ourselves, so that when we get triggered, we can differentiate whether it's our stuff all their stuff. And of course, there is the element of making sure that they have certain boundaries and they're safe. You know, we're not just going to let them go
Oh,
into a safe environment, but this is really important to understand. And that's where this wonderful education can come in. But in a collaborative space, we need to bring this back out into communities. And I remember, Victoria, I think a few months ago when I was having a conversation with you, you did say that you went out. Did you go out into a school to talk with parents, or you were planning on doing it? I can't remember. Just remind me of.
yeah. Well, I did actually go into a school because part of the service I do with young people is to get them back into education too. And so quite often I will attend with a young person and going back into school, and which gave me some beautiful opportunities to speak to the head and deputy head of schools and just let them know, the parenting support that is available,
Mm,
and they're always parents themselves as well. So when you can actually talk to a person, which is more and more difficult, I think, in this setting of everything online and internet based and social media and all of those things, it's very difficult. But if you can actually break through and get into personal space,
mm,
you can explain how it seems to be like a bit of a glass barrier of what we perceive we should be to
mm.
what is real. And when you talk about communication, I think the most important part is definitely the transparency and being honest,
Yeah.
and being honest with your child. And the amazing work that I've done with young people in recovering from mental health is to admit that I also, you know, find some of what they're doing challenging, and I would like to know how they would like me to respond to that, because
Mm,
I'm not sure. So again, like you say, being curious and asking the question when you don't know the answer,
yeah.
when they're doing a behavior and I can hear what you're doing, I can see, I can
Mm,
feel something's not right. How would you like me to respond? It's an amazing question.
yes.
Um, and that's what I found so much is there are some small questions and there are some small pieces of words that we can put together that fit us, but also let the young people or our children know we are also vulnerable. We don't know it all, and actually that's empowering for the young person because
Yeah.
you're believing in them,
Mm,
to let you know. And I think where society seems to have shifted is that we don't know what they're doing. We're physically keeping them safe by keeping them in the confines of our homes.
yeah.
But what we don't know is what they're being exposed to
Yeah.
through their devices. And that can be really scary for them.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to tell us because we're too old, we don't know. And also, we wouldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Um, so I always think we protect them a lot more than I was protected, for sure, and even maybe more than I protected my daughter. Now,
Mm,
protection and safeguarding feels very tight around
yeah.
our young people,
Yeah.
and I think allowing them to be bored, to
Yeah.
feel discomfort and distress,
Mm,
let them do that and
yeah.
let them find their own way,
Hmm.
but let them know that you're there.
Yeah.
And then when they've come through and they've found their own answers, those own answers are much more powerful than what we could tell them to do. And then you just praise them for, like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's what you went through, that's what you discovered, and how brilliant are you? Consistently believing in your children and
Mm,
praising them for finding emotional
mm,
releases and responses that aren't harmful to themselves,
yeah. Yeah.
and haven't gone back into them, going into their inner critic. There's another quote I heard recently is, as a mother, everything you say to your children will become their inner voice.
Yeah.
So be careful.
Be
you know,
careful. Yeah, I've had that experience.
because we listen a lot to our inner voice, and
Yeah.
and that's, it's really crucial to be able to say, when your voice pops up with something, say, stop. Is that true?
Yeah.
You know, is that real?
Yeah.
Do I believe that?
Mm,
Is there something I can do about that? And if there's not, can I accept the truth that I can't change what is? You
yeah.
know, a lot of brain work and a lot of focus,
Mm,
doing a bit more work up here, coming from here,
yes.
really makes a difference to how you enter a room,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know?
So, I mean, what I'm hearing as well is when you said it is actually simpler than what we think. It's not always easy, but it is
No.
simple. So, for example, just in summary, basically, it's asking permission as well. Like if particularly if they're that young adult, we are no longer they're no longer absolutely dependent on us like they are as a child. But now they're coming into that adult phase, they're transitioning into being independent. So actually, we're becoming a guide, like a mentor, to guide them on that journey into adulthood. So even asking permission and also allowing them to have choices is like, and then remembering that if you choose this path, what are the consequences of that path? And it's okay, I can support you if that is, but getting them to plant the seed and think about that is so
Yeah.
important, isn't it? Because actually, when they think about that and you're having that open conversation, obviously, when everything is calm. You definitely do not want to do it when they're in that high state of, craziness or whatever you want to call it. A high state of emotion is what I want to say. And it's about them. Then you just said very beautifully, them being seen, heard, and felt.
Yeah.
Super simple, right?
Yeah.
But not
Not
easy.
easy.
Not always easy for ourselves and for them as well. But then that cultivates a much deeper relationship that we can have with our family within the family system. And what I'd love to know a bit more about, because obviously you spoke specifically about the non-verbal resilience and
Non-violent resistance.
non-violent resilience and space. Can you give us maybe a couple of examples of what the benefits are, how what parents can expect from if they were to look at, like, even working with you and sharing that space, and how then you can support them with the work that you do. That would be amazing.
Okay, so we talk about the principles. So again, a lot of things that coaches do, and they talk about pillars and principles, but I want to make it even more simpler than that.
Yeah.
So it's all about recognizing you and where you're coming from. So I always put that as a first point. Listening to yourself. Are
Mm,
you coming from a place of fear, or are you coming from a place of love?
mm,
And then working with non-violent resistance is all about um, repair and anchoring. So again, I've just taken out to relay it in a simplistic term.
yeah.
You know, when they're in crisis, you need to anchor down.
Yes.
You need to stay um, in presence without responding sometimes. Sometimes it might take a length of time, but they're going through crisis. And then the repair work is to, whatever they're saying, however hurtful or painful it is to watch, you know, you have to anchor to allow them to go through their process.
Mm,
And then we have a phrase of called striking while the iron is cold. So then you can do the repair work. So we're not ignoring behavior. No, 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 no. We're not ignoring and saying, it's okay, darling, it's fine. That is not what we're doing. What we're doing is accepting that we cannot make a difference while they're in crisis. It
mm,
doesn't matter what we do, what we say. We can't change how they're feeling right then, and they cannot change.
yeah.
So by striking when the iron is cold, maybe later in the same day or the next day, having that conversation, because while they're going through crisis, you can make mental notes of what is affecting you and then have a discussion with them about how can we help avoid or help not get to that height of escalation that you feel that violence is an answer for either you or towards me. How can we avoid that happening again? And this really works.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really works because what notes you mentally take means that you heard them,
Yes.
and then you were willing to discuss with them how you can avoid that from happening, not how they can avoid it from happening. What have they got to do? No, nothing about them.
Yeah.
What can I, as your parent, do to stop that from happening?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to blame our children.
No.
They're trying to tell us something that they can't find another way of saying or doing. And that's why their behaviours have become so heightened, because they haven't found another way to let us know something.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we understand that. And I think, when you talk about that as a repair gesture, then take on board what they're saying. And also to break, like I said earlier, when I was talking about my own mum and how long it took us to get, I think there was like 6 weeks or something without us really talking properly. And to avoid that from happening, leaving a little post-it note or a little, favourite chocolate after you've made their bed when they've had a really bad bout, and just letting them know, still love you,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And that little note can break the ice enough so when you want to have that conversation,
Yeah.
they're ready to talk, and they understand that you're not going to just come back and meet them where they were, that you've actually been able, as a parent, to let their anger wash over you, taking out the pieces that you need, and you can relay it. And so that's relational gestures are very much a big part of the nonviolent resistance, because we leave those, if a young person has run away, there will be, that would be their return, would be, we are really happy, we were worried about you, we're really happy you're back. And that would be a note. It could even be, I think I did a funny one the other day, and I left a sloth teddy bear and said, we were really worried about you, and next time could you run away as slow as a sloth so we can keep up with you. So it's about, just making sure they don't feel they're coming back into a negative situation, that we're always repairing, because we are the adults, and we actually don't want to alienate them. We want them to be with us. We want them to choose to be with us. So those two little things, are very important. And I think, coming from the perception of the space program, when we're dealing with young people there with anxiety, it's not always a visible aggression anxiety. It's very internal. And it's very difficult to breach and break. But just saying this one sentence is a massive difference. I know it's hard for you, but I believe 100% that you can do it.
Yeah.
And most times young people will then, knowing that they have the belief of of their parents, the most important people to them, are able to then go away and find a way of, even if it's micro, find a way of doing more than they did before. And we always, that sentence being so powerful, from there we would always, we would make plans. We don't do anything instantaneously, and it's a discussion between adults and parents specifically about how they feel their children would react to a change in what we would call accommodation. So if they were anxious about driving down a particular street or going to a bathroom by themselves, it's a plan of how we all together as supporters for the belief in that young person, how we can drive it home that and we all know about anxiety, is it built up a lot worse than the actual event.
Yeah.
So we're not lying, we're saying from a point of truth that we know if you went into the bathroom by yourself, you're not going to die, and neither is anyone else. And so we believe that you can get through it, and the parents are the best positioned to figure out which small accommodations or one large accommodation that they could tackle. And it's really it's really implicit with the parents' knowledge of their children.
Yeah. Yes.
So, and
you as the parent, we are the ones that really know our child.
Absolutely.
So and we are the ones that know, and having other people outside of ourselves that are looking in. Yes, they can say, "Have you tried this?" and you can give it a go. But ultimately, that may not work because it worked for you, but it didn't work for me. Again, like going back to what I said right at the beginning, is so valuable and so important to keeps coming back, doesn't it? To know ourselves. So that's why the importance of what we're sharing is really about empowering us as parents to be, the best that we can be. And we are amazing. Every single parent, I believe, it's a bit of all of us saying to each other, as a parent, I hear you, I get you, I've been there, or I understand what you're saying. Whatever it is, you may have this collab. And what if we were all to collaborate in community around that? Like, what if we start to come together in this community? And I've got some things to share later because I think this is really exciting where that is starting to happen. And so
Good.
yeah, so definitely it's a process, like you said, but what you're saying, Victoria, is for me, I feel like it's such a beautiful education to want to experience and to be guided by you who can hold the space for the parents. And that's another thing. These our teens, our children are having the space to be held, even though, we know that there's certain challenges. But what if we were to change that completely and started to come into these communities where we have people like yourself in that community where they know that they could go to, feel trusted, feel held, feel safe as a family unit, not just the individual, because we are a family unit. And that's where we can then start, cultivating different relationships and deepening our relationship in the family system.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the constant on social media and professional pages like LinkedIn as well, the constant mention by parents of the fights that they're having with, SEN education and finding the right direction for their children to be educated correctly. I think it's just like it's enough to be a parent to then not have to take on all of the education role for your child and the health role for your child too. And part of my actual own story is that I'm a sibling of a neurodiversion and grew up with her and my mother's fight, against professionals, telling her she didn't know anything and she was an overbearing mother. I think a lot of this comes from back then for me, where I I'm 5 years younger than my sister, so witnessing quite a lot of this. I mean, it felt like a betrayal of my mum and complete disempowering. And it's just unfair. It's just so unfair, and it shouldn't be. A lot, even mothers that are in the profession. I've even got a friend who's a social worker, her son, neurodiversion, and completely disregarded as an overbearing mother so often, and it's not okay. So I think you're right. For me, it's all about connection, community, and collaboration. And I feel like it's like a union, isn't it? If you were having a union in work, you have a union to protect you in your job. And we have a duty to form a union as parents to protect each other against, I'm not going to say the system, but you know,
Yeah.
the method and the way that everything's working, to say this needs to shift.
Yeah.
It's not us that needs to change. It's the system of education, of mental health,
Yeah.
of general health.
Yeah.
It's that system that needs to shift and move and grow, because I don't think it has grown very much in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
So,
I know.
you
I
know,
mean,
it's,
I feel like we obviously have the system. We could quite easily become victims to it. It can't we? That's easy. That's easy
yeah,
to be a victim to the system. But actually, what we're asking is that we really want to be able to grow from the things that are currently not working. Because yes, there may be a time when it was doing okay, for an example, but now the world has changed so much that something, as you said, needs to change.
yeah,
And we need to grow, it needs to grow. And potentially there isn't really enough being done at those type of levels in the area of growth to introduce these kind of tools to complement the services that they, and it's not to say that those services that they're supplying in those particular areas of expertise don't work, but what if we can introduce this collaboration for the things that are coming now into our awareness with you know, there's so many beautiful tools. I can't tell, we do
and
rapid
it doesn't
transition
cost a
therapy.
fortune. It doesn't have to be
Doesn't.
expensive.
It does not have to be expensive, and it can be introduced if we can have the right platforms to be able to educate everybody in the area of health and wellness. And for me personally, with the area of mental health, I feel like it's become this stigma now, and it seems like a buzzword even. And it's not to take away that you don't have those mental health, but what if we looked at it in a different perspective, looked at it as introducing what does our well-being look like,
Yeah,
where we are mentally, emotionally, physically and spiritually supported, not saying that we have these mental health attributes that are limiting us, but what about the possibility of creating conversations around what if we were emotionally and mentally fit?
yeah,
Like having more of those conversations to start planting those seeds.
yeah. And I think, unfortunately, um, the economy has become a little bit more important than the
Yes,
family unit.
yeah,
And I think it's very new, you
yeah,
know, that is, we're talking just about over 100 years. So,
yeah,
um, in fact, I think it started pretty much with Watson in 1850s.
yeah.
So, and for some reason,
Mm.
we changed the family unit at that point,
Yeah,
um, being excited about monetizing,
everything.
taking the mother out of the family and making her go to work,
Yeah.
because that would give two taxpayers as opposed to one.
Yes, yeah,
You know, it is actually key as to why it's being held on to. But like you say, we are four-dimensional in our elements of well-being,
yes,
and everything that's being done for us at the moment is very much two-dimensional.
yeah.
So yeah, I think absolutely need to consider things as a whole,
As a whole,
as a whole.
100%.
And I would like to say that I do work in Hertfordshire County Council,
Yes,
and they are very much embracing that at the moment. My training has come through them with the space and with the nonviolent resistance in
amazing.
how we design our residential homes,
Yeah,
very much trauma informed.
yeah,
And they are very much into it and a key part of one of the first counties to bring that in
yeah,
and open to receiving from America, Canada, etc.
yeah.
And yeah, being very open about it, and that's very positive.
That's exciting.
But there is still a massive fear factor from the powers that be above.
Mm,
To I don't know whether they have a fear of there not being enough
mm,
for everybody,
yeah,
but the power of collaboration and connection
Mm.
means that we can verbally share things
Yeah.
for free,
Yeah.
and people can start feeling better
Mm.
and not feeling shame very simply,
Yeah.
by being able to talk to each other
Yeah.
and coming out of our houses. And
Mm.
it's lovely when the sun's out here, by the way. You can actually do
Yeah.
that. When it's raining and miserable, not so much, but I
Yeah.
think, there's a lot to learn about, being whole
Yes.
and feeling whole,
Yeah.
and being able to answer people when they are questioning you,
Mm.
you know but this is an aspect, and this is also another aspect
Mm.
of, you know when people are judgmental, they come from one point of view.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I'm going to go back to generational, because that's where they get their ideas from.
Yeah.
It's what we've learned, what we know, and it was all okay for them.
Mm.
But actually, when they look at it a bit deeper, it wasn't. And I think Gabor Meta also picks up excellently that there aren't very many people who actually did have a happy childhood.
Yeah.
If you look closely, there will be parts of it that
Yeah.
really weren't. And
Yeah.
we cover things up to make it look better sometimes than it is.
Yeah.
But by doing that, we prevent our children from growing. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's the key, isn't it? When we can start healing ourselves in the space of where we are right now as adults, imagine the generations coming through, from, and also we can heal the generations backwards, can't we? We can send gratitude, we can send love, we can send acceptance. I mean, that's where the magic is, because you're healing those generations from the back of us. Someone introduced me to a beautiful book. I mean, we could have this conversation called "The Women That Run with Wolves." Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Well, the reason I'm saying this is because when I talk about generations in there, there's a the concept of, like, for women particularly, is obviously we have our eggs, and our eggs are produced down the line, right? So we're
Yeah.
holding these energy imprints all the women in our signature.
Yes,
So I've
absolutely.
got to this space now. I've suddenly, I'm doing some of these things, but actually I know that for some reason I've intuitively known this isn't me, and I've realised that it's some of my generational imprints that I've been carrying as this extra baggage. And I personally have done my own clearing and healing on this through lots of things. But my intention is so that my children don't have to carry that continued baggage. And that
Absolutely.
for
Break that
me,
cycle.
as a parent, I can't tell you, I've got goosebumps. I feel really empowered by that myself.
Yeah.
Also the inspiration that, the possibility of that their children, I can't, obviously, if their soul comes in and they have different lifetimes, if you believe in that stuff, which I do, you can't necessarily get those contracts, but definitely the generational imprints that we have in that system is just magic if we can start doing that for ourselves. And then what you're sharing is just to complete all of this. And if there's anything else you want to share as well, is just for us as being, having the support system for parents and having someone to go to that can be that hot space holder to support them, but also give them actually amazing. When I say give them, um, allow them to have these actual tools that they didn't know that they could use to be
Yeah.
able to then support is so powerful, isn't it? That we can share in that space.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Being a mentor.
Yes.
Being
Yeah.
a mentor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as you said earlier as well, being a mentor for your child. But in
Mm.
order for you to be a mentor for your child, you may need to invoke a mentor for yourself,
For yourself.
because you can only teach what you know.
Yeah.
And and as a lot of women that I've worked with have done a lot of this work, shifting some of that generational emotional cycle and torrent has left them a space to breathe
Yeah.
and accept
Mm.
where they're coming from. And
Yeah.
by doing that, even if they haven't got children yet, I
Mm.
already know that they will be better parents, because they've learned how to look after themselves.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Um, and I'll be honest, I've worked with I work with young people,
Yeah.
but in my own therapeutic work,
Yeah.
I don't work with under 18s. I work with them under the local authority, but
Yeah.
over 18s, I work within a therapeutic setting,
Yeah.
and they're younger. It's not all about women reaching menopausal age and suddenly thinking, I'm not where I should be. That
Mm.
is a very key point, and those people, genuinely need, because they can become grandmothers who are also amazing mentors. I mean,
Yeah.
grandmothers, wow, they've got some
Yeah.
experience to add to
Yes.
everything else.
Wise women.
Absolutely. But, just having the ability to know yourself
Mm.
is an incredible gift.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, Victoria, so after this conversation, really, can you just re-summarize the three things that you really would love to share with the audience about working with you, and some key tool giveaways that you could say have the most impact, particularly around supporting parents, the tools that they can give, just as a reminder. I know you said there was that wonderful sentence, but I didn't write it down, I can't remember it. But anything else that comes to mind that you really want to leave with the audience that are listening to this conversation today?
I think mirroring,
Mm,
you know,
yeah,
mirroring is the absolute key to parenting.
yeah,
And when you feel like you're in crisis, and who the hell am I to tell you to do a bit of self care?
mm,
Remember, what you show in your body language, in your face, in your words, is what they'll repeat, you
yes,
know. And
yeah,
like I said, you'll become what you say, becomes their inner voice. And it only takes, when you wake up in the morning, to look in the mirror and tell yourself, I'm doing the best I can.
mm,
And with what I know, and today I'm going to learn something else.
yeah,
And that's enough. And even if you can just give yourself a quick hug and tell yourself it's okay, it's
yeah,
enough. It doesn't have to be, I need to go off to the gym for 3 hours
yes,
as a bit of self care. That isn't what this is about. It's giving yourself, stop and acknowledge how good you're doing
yeah,
for a start. Even if you don't actually feel at this moment
mm,
you are doing a good job,
mm,
you need to recognize that you are still doing. You haven't given up and you haven't walked away, and you are still doing the best that you can do,
yeah,
and making a point of saying, to your brain to stop, not respond. Delayed response is amazing.
mm,
So whenever anything's going on, picture yourself as an anchor.
mhm,
Let whatever's happening happen.
yeah,
Take some mental notes, and then revisit when it's calm,
yeah,
and be honest about how it made you feel and what you didn't know what to do, and
yeah,
what they can give you to help for the next time if this comes up.
mm,
And I think the sentence that I was talking about is really about the anxiety when it gets a grip. I mean, it's like an alien body, and it gets a grip of your child,
yeah,
and you feel very helpless.
yeah,
You need to be able to say to them, I really know it's hard,
yeah,
but I believe in you, and I believe 100% you can get through this.
yeah, amazing,
And that sentence is key to
powerful,
breaking anxiety,
yeah,
because sometimes you need to talk
mm,
to your child outside of the anxiety and respond to the anxiety as a separate entity.
yeah,
I know that the anxiety is hard,
mm, yeah,
because it isn't them.
it's
And
not
then
them,
separate those behaviors. The
yeah,
behaviors isn't them.
yeah,
We need to talk sometimes to the behaviors, but ultimately we need to let the children know, despite the behaviors, we love them,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yes,
and that we are responsible to
mm,
sit with them and say, what can we do for you?
yeah,
That means you do not have to escalate to this level,
yeah, absolutely.
and
I just That's just so such beautiful tools. I loved the ones you said about in the morning, and it's also giving yourself permission to say to yourself, I'm doing the best I can with what I have right now. And
Yeah.
I'm open to choosing to invite new experiences of learning into my life to know how to deal with it. Now, I wanted to share just a couple of very short ones as well, because they're exactly the same as you. They're super simple, really powerful. And one of them is actually been developed by the Human Garage, and it's a fascia maneuver. And you said about hugging yourself.
Mm.
This is a wonderful way, because actually, when we do the crossover, the hugging, it's like the fetal position. We're coming back into that space of
Oh, lovely.
safety. And when we actually give ourselves the hug, and it's literally, you can do this first thing in the morning or last thing at night when you're feeling a bit stressed out about the day. This is a very short way of just bringing yourself back into center. So we'll do it now. And if anyone wants to join us, please do feel free. It takes about 5 minutes. You can do it sitting down or you can do it standing up. So all you do is you cross your right leg over your left. And if you can, it's quite good to tuck your foot under your leg, if you can, but you don't have to. Then if you take your right hand and place it under your armpit, like under your rib cage, and
Yeah.
you kind of pull it, and then you put your left hand on your right shoulder, and then you just squeeze as if you're squeezing yourself a lovely big hug. And then you turn your head to the left and you turn your body to the right. And then I'm going to invite you to breathe in through your mouth 3 times and then in and out through your nose and then your mouth 3 times. So we'll do that now. So 1, 2, 3. Then in through your nose, out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3. And very slowly just unwind, come back to center, unwind your arms, and then give it a little shake. And what's quite nice sometimes if you can go for a walk if you're sitting down. And I can tell you, I mean, how did that feel, Victoria?
Oh,
Because
it felt lovely.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it really does bring. There's a lot of science around it as well. So you can actually go and find more of the way I work with fashion maneuvers over on my website. I'll put all the details because there's a beautiful series that they've got a parents program, and this is a great integration for parents to start using for themselves, but also for their children and their teenagers. It is amazing. So I'm going to put the details in. You need to go and visit them. The other one that I love is the Ho'oponopono mantra. Do you know that one, Victoria?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, this got me through I've got adult children, so it got me through all of the challenges that I faced it, because what it does is it invites you to go back into yourself. And it is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. You
I
may
do know it.
have,
Yes. I do
yes,
know it. Yeah.
yes, you do. I thought you might know it. Sometimes people don't know the actual name, but it
Name of
is
it.
the most beautiful mantra, because what you're really doing is you're saying, God, I'm sorry for feeling so angry right now. So you're actually speaking to that part of you. You said it's like a different energy that you're working with, and you're saying, I'm sorry for for feeling so angry right now. Please forgive me.
Yeah.
I was afraid that something might happen. Then it's saying thank you for highlighting my fear. And then you say, I love you anyway. And that's you are literally coming back into yourself. You're loving yourself. And I remember doing this a lot when I was on car journeys on the way to school, when the kids were in the back going crazy. And of course I could quite easily been sat in the car driving along going, why don't you just shut up and be quiet? Why can't you just speak to each other nicely? But instead, I just sat there, and I wasn't calm at the time because I could feel everything bubbling up. And I would just say in my head, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love it. And literally the whole car journey, I would go there. And by the time I got there, I was pretty calm. The kids in the back are calm. And if you actually go and look at the story of Ho'oponopono, of the Hawaiian man that actually did the story. He actually worked in a prison. And one day the prisoners were all sort of a bit chaotic. And so he sat in this one room and he was doing this mantra. And what happened was the prison started to calm down. So what he was doing was he was calming his anxiety or fear, what he was feeling inside of him, and that frequency rippled out into the rest of the space that he was holding. And
Absolutely.
isn't that
Amazing.
amazing? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
understanding more about frequency and energy and how that affects us. So when we're talking about us working ourselves as parents, it's because we're creating that safe space within ourselves, which means it creates the same safe space in our environment.
Yes, exactly. It's like a
So
shield around you.
exactly.
Yeah, that
So
you can spread. It's
yeah.
amazing.
So Victoria, you that was just such an amazing conversation, and I know there's so many people that get a lot out of this. Um, just how can they find you? I'll put the details in the description below, but how can they find you? How can they work with you? Just share a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean,
But
so my
everything you do as well, because it's not just this that you do. I know that you do other therapeutic techniques, so please do share your
yes,
details.
yes. So I do. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist with RTT as well, which is lovely for finding root causes, etc.
Yeah.
Um, and I love doing that too.
Mm.
Um, and also, coaching, confidence coaching, and things like that as well. So I think when people work with me, I like to think and feel that I'm a hand on their shoulder
Yes.
that says it's okay.
Yeah.
And like you said about your frequency, I believe I bring a frequency of calmness, and I
Mm.
think I can spread that through as well as in person. I can spread that through the internet as well because
Yeah.
through conversations and validations because we are all doing the best that we can.
Yeah.
So I have my website, which is victoriajanetherapy.co.uk, which tells you a bit about the work that I'm doing at the moment with women,
Yeah.
especially celebrating what amazing creatures we are,
Yes.
and how actually I do totally believe we are core, centered, root everything
Yeah.
to community,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
before technology, and before let's say money became more important,
Yeah.
we actually did hold a lot together,
Yeah.
and we're still trying,
Yeah.
and we're just doing a lot more on top of that as well, which
Yeah.
we need to come back again.
It's important.
Yeah, we need to come back again to our nurturing and
Yeah.
be okay with that. Really celebrate our femininity,
Mm. Yeah.
and because it's really powerful,
Yeah.
and not in any way detracting from fathers. I
Not
just
at
want to put
all.
that out
No,
there
it's part. It's
because a parent,
yeah.
mother and father are very much
Yeah.
two parts of the same pod, and
Absolutely.
community is about both sexes. It's just that I happen to be a woman and
Yeah.
find it a connection right there at this moment. I also do work with men,
Yeah.
um but I think also when I work with men, I bring my feminine energy to nurture and heal. So,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
I think being in touch with that is really good.
Yes.
um yes, and I also on social media under Victoria Jane,
Mhm.
with yeah, all
Okay.
Facebooks and the Instagram and everything else. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Brilliant.
currently launching a 6-week workshop for
Yes.
women.
Watch this space because you did
Yes.
share about, and we'll definitely what we'll do is when that becomes launched, we'll have another conversation specifically around that. And also, we're going to be sharing this particular conversation with the People's Health Alliance. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to be in collaboration with them because this is where they're bringing it back to community. They've got a brilliant, brilliant initiative called Connect the Dots. And if anybody is in the UK, in the southern area, I think it's in sort of like the Reading area, but in Berkshire. I can't remember. I'm actually going to it, so I don't know why I don't know the place. It's called the Wellness Festival, and it's with
Okay.
Billy J. and she's got amazing speakers there. And they've got the People's Health Alliance are for the first time going to have their own stands there to introduce their new initiative called Connect the Dots. And the idea is that the Connect the Dots is that every single community has this wonderful hub by the sounds of things that you're already kind of like starting in Hertfordshire, where they have a hub of expertise where the community can go into and find all the right people that they need to for their health and well-being and
Oh,
education.
absolutely. I mean, that above everything else, the confusion for people to say,
Yeah,
who do I need to speak
where do I
to?
go? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
where do I start with all of this? There's so much
exactly.
out there.
Where do I start? And this is all, as we said, through the whole process, prevention. If we can do prevention education for
Yes,
ourselves, for our children, then what we're
absolutely.
doing is we're giving ourselves back our own ability to know and trust in ourselves that we are the healers of ourselves. But we need to know how to do that and then be supported by the right people in our communities where we actually raise our wonderful children in a lovely village. Going back to the simpleness of what it used to be. And
Absolutely.
I'm not saying this is amazing. I'm in Spain and I get to speak to you there in England. So, having the wider community is just as valuable when it's used in the right way, but also back into those community hubs, into the spaces where you are living is going to be so powerful. So that initiative, I encourage you to go and have a look at it. And if you can come to that Wellbeing Festival, I'm going on the 10th of August. It's going to be there from the 8th, I think. I'm super excited about it because I know there's some amazing speakers. There's a lovely lady actually she's from When Push Comes to Shove. I don't know if
Okay.
you've heard of her. You might even like to speak to her, Victoria, because
Yeah.
she's about birthing and how bringing back birthing into, the way you're meant to birth and having the education around how we can birth and bring it back into, our feminine selves. She's
I
absolutely
mean, yeah,
incredible.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, if you like go,
I,
I'll send you the details, but if you
yeah,
speak to her and you see her, watch her story. It is phenomenal. She is a force to be reckoned with, I can tell you. I'm excited to go and see her. But there's so many other speakers as well. So definitely go and have a look at that. But this is a great community share, and I'm so excited that we had this conversation, Victoria. Thank you so much. I've learned a
very
lot,
welcome. It's a pleasure. It's lovely
and
talking.
I do not doubt that we are going to have more conversations and it's time for you to shine your incredible gifts with the rest of the world. It's really time for you to be seen. And I want to share that
Thank
with the
you.
world
Thank
because
you.
you're extraordinary, Victoria. I love everything you said to me and shared with me. I think it's beautiful what you bring to other people's hearts and minds.
Thank you. Oh, that's so lovely, Claire. Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure talking with you, and thank you for having this conversation.
Great.